So what advice then would you give to other aspiring female entrepreneurs, do you think?
I think I would say that if you don't have a group of women who have your back, and I'm not just talking about friends, which are obviously very, very important to us as well, women who are actually cheering you on in what you're doing, in your growth, in your business, in your life, where you're having the deeper conversations and the opportunity to learn and witness from one another, it's time to do that because it's one of the biggest resources that I found. And
Welcome to the Goddess Show podcast, voices of visionary women, inspiring female leaders by interviewing amazing guests to encourage us all to rise up. Enjoy. Hello and welcome to the Goddess Show, voices of visionary women, inspiring female leaders. And today we're very, very lucky to have a very special guest, Aurora Pagonis, who is the founder of She Speaks. And our theme for today is a new way of living, loving and leading. So I'll just tell you a little bit about Aurora, because Aurora, you have traversed the path of business in senior roles in the telecommunications, IT, and wellness sectors. You have equally walked the path of transformation through professional development services as a leadership coach, inspirational speaker, and transformation facilitator. And as the founder of She Speaks, you also bring powerful conversations, transformation, and international transformative travel together. So I can't wait for our listeners and our viewers to hear all about you. So I'm going to start off with the very first question, which is what motivated and inspired you to start your business?
Well, as you briefly mentioned, I sort of grew up in the corporate arena, working at a very young age as a young woman in the telecommunications, IT, and wellness sectors in corporate. And I noticed over time that the most important asset that a business had was its people. And I noticed also that there was a level of disconnect that was coming through with people to I guess more their personal values, their personal aspirations, and more specifically their heart and how they were doing business with their head. So the inspiration originally came to integrate personal development and consciousness in business, which at the time seemed almost opposite ends of the spectrum, in a way that I could start to reach business leaders' hearts and to start to bring in the balance that I had started to curate within myself of personal development, consciousness, and business.
Wow, that's amazing. So that pretty much leads me to the next question, because I imagine that's what it is. But why are you so passionate about it?
Well, as I continue down on this path, and I often will share that it was really an unfolding. I didn't really set out to build an organization that was supporting the divine feminine or the feminine intelligence or women as such. But as one step happened and the next step happened, this opening occurred. And one day in the listening, I guess, in the place of being in a deep meditation and journaling, which is a practice I've done for many years now, I heard these two words, She Speaks. And I was wondering, what is that? What is She Speaks? But I did notice this familiar feeling in my body that I was kind of really enlivened by it. And so the curiosity and the listening and the unfolding of She Speaks started to form. And the reason I'm passionate about She Speaks, which I know that we're going to talk a little bit more about soon, is because I believe that women hold the key to actually be the leaders in the shift that's required right now on the planet as we're going through so much change. And I believe that women are the ones who, when they become connected to capacities and skills that lie on the inner, what I call feminine intelligence, maybe others call heart intelligence, that we will have an opportunity to shift into balance and harmony. And so I dedicated my work to serving women and women leaders to make sure that they were moving forward in their own calling, in their own work, in their own lives, from a place of wholeness.
That's amazing. And it sounds like we are so aligned in what we do because, as you know, my job is empowering women too. And what is really fantastic is the way that it came through to you, because I can completely relate to that. I actually woke up one day because I quite often get my guidance in the morning, and my message was to empower women. And I thought, why women specifically? And then I did the research and found out, and you're absolutely right. I mean, we've seen where we have been led up until this point in the world. And it is high time that women being more nurturing, being more collaborative, being more, creative, multidimensional, and so many other things. And I'm not saying men don't have qualities like that, but I completely agree with you that it is our turn to lead and to do things in the world, to become trailblazers. So
Totally.
thank you so much.
And there's no coincidence that we're sitting here together today, and even with our own journey of how we sort of met one another in that understanding. And there's a readiness. I can feel it. When I started 9 years ago, and this is one of the things that has always been part of my makeup, is being more of a pioneer.
Yeah.
Women's empowerment, working with the feminine intelligence, working with heart intelligence, they were very, very new. And you're starting to see this all starting to sprout up all across the world now.
It's absolutely
women
fantastic.
who are ready to rise.
We are. We're so ready to rise. This is our time. So that's fantastic. All right. Well, let's move on. I would love to ask you, just to inspire other women to rise up as well, to share a little about your own personal inspiring story, like personal obstacles you've overcome, for instance.
Well, it's interesting because there is something that I'd like to share that feels very connected to She Speaks specifically. And one of the things that got some birds in the background. They're also speaking.
Join.
One of the things that I discovered, and one of the things that I sort of hold space for women to remember, is that often when we have a personal obstacle, whatever it is that we grow through and who we become, often that personal obstacle is kind of the invitation or the entree to our greatest power or our greatest gifts or our greatest superpower, as you might know. And so I remembered as a little girl, of 4 years of age, people would ask me my name, and I had a lisp. I couldn't speak clearly. And they would ask me my name, and my mum would call me Susie. Aurora wasn't there, and I would say my name was Phoebe Pagonis. And the adults would laugh, and they thought that I was the cutest little thing. But, as a little girl, I kind of felt like there was something wrong with me. And I remember we had this beautiful home, and there was a figure eight goldfish pond. I sat by the goldfish, and I don't even know where this came to me or how I found out. So I started to say, "Thee fells, she sells by the seashore," over and over again until I was able to speak correctly.
That's amazing. How old were you when you did this?
I was 4.
You were 4, and you had the knowledge or the inclination to cure yourself at 4 years old. That's amazing.
And what was interesting, without really understanding how things would go over the years, I then developed a business called She Speaks, or She Speaks. Do you know what I mean? So it was like this sense of our greatest obstacles are the entree and invitation for our greatest gifts. And so that felt like a really important piece to share. And, as I said, I didn't really plan to become a women's empowerment facilitator. It wasn't really what I had started off, but I recognize that right now we are in a planetary emergency, really.
Yeah, we're really.
All sectors are breaking down, the finance sector, the government sectors. And yet this is a good thing, even though it doesn't seem like a good thing, because in the breakdown, we're getting prepared for the breakthrough. And I believe that women connected to their hearts, connected to their voice, connected to their passion, connected to an intelligence that goes beyond the thinking mind,
yes,
compassion, deep listening, intuition, that whole aspect of woman is now what is required. And I also do need to say, whilst we are talking about women and men, and I serve women leaders just as you do, it's not really a gender thing, because these capacities are waking up in our men. but
Absolutely.
we need to lead this. Yeah.
Absolutely. And on that, what I would like to say as well is that some of my biggest supporters have been men in touch with their feminine side.
Yes, totally.
So absolutely agree. This is nothing against men whatsoever.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on. That was a great answer. Thank you so much.
My
I
pleasure.
want to ask you to tell us about your business. So tell us more about it.
So in the unfolding of moving from a corporate environment, I started to work with emotional intelligence or mindful leadership and started working with men and women in corporate. This is kind of the transition between the corporate roles, which were more senior sales and marketing and partner management and management. I started working with leadership, and when I heard the words "she speaks," I recognized there was something within that was calling for me to start to drop into more of my own understanding of what I now call feminine intelligence. And through that understanding and through my own experience, I decided that it was important to start to create safe containers for women leaders to be able to come and explore these aspects within themselves. And so She Speaks originally and continues to be a leadership organisation and empowerment organisation. So I'm doing one-on-one work, one-on-one coaching. But what I found was there was a new power that was becoming available when we came together in groups.
Yeah.
And so I started to bring the ancient oracular wisdom or the ancient knowledge of the spoken word and the power of the spoken word into a group environment and started to create She Speaks conversation circles that also allowed us to drop into a deeper wisdom and a deeper intelligence through mindfulness, authentic dialogue, sharing, but also giving ourselves a space, because as women, we tend to juggle a lot.
Yes.
Just creating the space to have that personal contemplation to sort of move beyond what we're feeling and coming into understanding. So the coaching, the circles, the sharing circles. And very recently, I decided to bring two aspects, two things that I love, 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 which are transformation and travel together. And
PTs,
created She
alliteration. I love it.
Yeah, She Speaks Travel, which is a transformation travel organisation. So the whole idea of She Speaks is to empower women to become more of themselves and to experience the things that are important to them in their lives and in their business.
Fantastic. So tell me, what were the first few steps you took to get your business up and running?
Well, first of all, I had to work out what She Speaks was. Is it a book? Is it, it was really an intuition and an inspiration. So, where I started was really starting to dive into why I wanted to create offerings and what those offerings would look like and how I could make the most impact. So really getting clear on my why and starting to understand what the pillars and the essence of the actual business, because as you know, when we're creating a business, it ends up having a life of its own and an essence of its own. So really getting that clarity. But it was a little difficult because moving away from having the regular income and having all the structures there, and then now all of a sudden being out on my own, there was a lot of resources that I also needed to bring in, business skills and all the rest of it. But the why was probably the first thing, and then really getting clear and not being afraid to try things. I think a lot of the time as women, we've got to, we think we have to perfect something before we can offer it. And that's one of the things that I would actually share with the women who are listening. Obviously get your structures, get your services together, but just start.
Yes, that's really good advice. Really good advice, because procrastination is a big stumbling block, isn't it?
Totally.
Thank you for that. That was great. So tell me, what have been your biggest challenges so far?
I think we touched in on it a little bit before,
Yeah,
and I think one of the things that has been a challenge for me is that a lot of the offerings that have come through my business and in other co-creations, because I've worked a lot collaboratively in co-creation with another or many others, because I feel this is the time where we start to bring our genius and skills together in a way that we create a new tapestry. But part of my challenge has been a lot of what I have been creating at the very beginning is always pioneering and new. And so often people can't see it, they can't taste it, they haven't experienced it until they have. And
Yes.
so sometimes that invitation or the wooing of women to step in and get going has been a little bit of a challenge. And the way that I've overcome it is just to continue on, really,
Yeah.
and to ensure that I'm surrounding myself with others who can meet me in that place of pioneering, and start to sort of simplify the way that I'm offering or speaking to what I'm sharing.
So in that, do you mean simplify the message you're bringing across?
Simplifying the message, and also then really trying to have ways where people could come and have their own experience. As an example, sitting in a conversation circle, as she speaks conversation circle, I'm always blown away in 90 minutes how everyone in the circle will have a deep transformation in 90 minutes. So just having, putting that toe in the water and going, oh, wow, because new doors open.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Fantastic. And some of those doors, in terms of being a pioneer, would you say have also been the collaborations that you have entered into?
Totally, because all of a sudden we're bringing new genius, new skills together in ways that perhaps haven't been played with before, and therefore the opportunity of creation becomes amplified.
Yeah, awesome. So tell me, what is the best advice you have received recently?
I think it's the reminder that people don't necessarily remember what you say. They might not necessarily remember what you do, but they always remember how you make them feel.
Yes.
Maya Angelou shared that with me once, and it was brought back into my awareness just very recently. And I think that that's really important, because really, in all businesses and in all of life, relationship becomes key. So
Yes.
as I get to know myself more intimately, as I get to sort of really even celebrate that the edges, the parts that are actually getting in the way, or might not be as easily received, as I move through that and I continue to be in that listening and in that relationship, I can then create environments in my relating with others that create a scenario which is memorable. So I think that that's one of the things that comes up for me.
That's really important. And, you brought something up in that is, those edges that you talked about, because from my point of view, the whole definition of goddess is loving our light and shadow equally. And in actual fact, what I've learned, which I think is relevant here to share, is that a true realization of a human being is embracing the light and the shadow. So I think that's a really important point you brought across there. So tell me, Aurora, how do you keep motivated through difficult times?
Well, I think the thing that has really supported me over the years has been to become a meditator, and to meditate and be in mindfulness and journaling practices almost every day. And I find that that actually supports me to have a resource of guidance, clarity, but even just supporting my nervous system. Uh, I was thinking, as we were coming onto this into this conversation today, I was thinking of the times when my mind might have said yes, but then when I dropped into my heart, it said no, or vice versa, where that clarity that comes when we get still. So it's one of the things that really supports me.
That's fantastic. So what advice then would you give to other aspiring female entrepreneurs, do you think?
I think I would say that if you don't have a group of women who have your back, and I'm not just talking about friends, which are obviously very, very important to us as well, women who are actually cheering you on in what you're doing, in your growth, in your business, in your life, where you're having the deeper conversations and the opportunity to learn and witness from one another, it's time to do that. Because it's one of the biggest resources that I found. And one of the things that happens when we sit in circle together, empowerment circles, we get to be seen, we get to be heard, which is such a big thing for most women. Sometimes they don't even realize how important it is until they're not being seen and heard.
Yes.
And also to learn just by hearing. I always find when we're sitting in a conversation circle where, we might pair up with somebody, often they're going through something very similar, and, we get to learn from one another.
We sure do. And that's really fantastic. And in fact, it inspired me to invite our listeners and our viewers to connect with us. Isn't that fantastic? Okay,
Love it.
so tell me, what are your favorite business tools, resources, and why at the moment?
I'll unmute there. Uh, is that good? Yes.
Yes,
I'm really loving having the connections. I have a peer-to-peer group where we meet every 2 weeks, where we have deep conversations. I always am surprised by what comes up, where we'll bring a business challenge to the table, where we'll talk about it. And it's kind of like a group coaching environment, but also at the same time an opportunity to, because I find that when we speak something, that's one of the things I love about She Speaks. When we speak it, often it can bring, from a deeper level, it can bring the head and the heart together. And then when it's spoken, we can see it. It becomes form.
yes.
So I don't think there's the business tools that are helping me right now are necessarily anything that's kind of tactical, but it's more about connection, inspiration, support.
Okay, that's great. Well, that's great. Thank you for that. So the next question I have for you are, what are your goals and how are you striving to achieve them at the moment?
Well, when I decided that it was time to bring travel and transformation together, I decided again through an unfolding that I wanted to take groups of women to what I call the sacred centers, the power centers, or powerful centers across the globe, to support them not only in having an adventure on the outer, but also continuing an adventure on the inner. And so my goals now are to be creating incredible curated journeys where we have fun and where we have, amazing eating experiences and adventures meets an opportunity to dive in deeply through our transformation. So as you're aware, I have this beautiful offering in Egypt. We have a 14-day
Well, that's my next question, actually.
Yeah, so that's one, but the goal is to be actually delivering at least one new incredible retreat for women, to have that place of stepping out of the mundane and stepping into the extraordinary, but not just sitting around a pool and sipping cocktails. They can do that too.
Sounds good
but
too.
to integrate their own inner journey with their outer journey.
Fantastic. So my next question is, are you currently running any promos, contests, or giveaways?
Well, I really would love to invite any of the women who come and listen to the Voices of Visionary Women to be my guests and come and join one of the online women's empowerment circles. I'll be sharing with you how you can get in contact with me. For those who haven't really done a circle, sometimes women think that, oh, I'm just going to sit down, I'm going to hear everybody's problems. And in fact, it couldn't be further from the truth. Yes, things come up that are challenges, but often what we're speaking into is the empowerment piece and what it is that we need to activate within ourselves. So it's confidence, it's clarity, and it's also helping us to fine-tune. So please come to be my guest for your first She Speaks conversation circle. All you need to do is reach out to me. And I also would love to invite your guests who are watching the show and your clients and the beautiful women who are leaning in to an exclusive event, an online event where I'll be launching the retreat to Egypt. It was originally for just my inner community, but I would love to extend that invitation for anyone who's thinking they'd love an adventure of a lifetime.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you for that.
Yeah,
I'm sure our listeners and our viewers will be really excited about that. So tell me now, Aurora, what would you say to inspire other women? Like, do you have a big message that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I think the piece that starts to bubble up for me is about trusting yourself, trusting ourselves.
Wow.
And one of the things that I find that working with the coaching and in the circle, sometimes we don't know which voice within us to trust, especially when we have competing priorities where we're thinking we should be doing some of those moments where you've got to make a decision and you're juggling and you're thinking this and then you're thinking that. But when we can actually drop into this deeper wisdom, which is available to us through the stillness, which is available to us through working with transformative practice, when we can come into that wisdom, the clarity starts to bubble up, we learn to trust that place to guide our lives and our business. And a new experience, a new texture becomes available. It's more colorful, it's clear, it's more fulfilling. And I think that most women are longing for that fulfillment. I work with a lot of women who have mastered bodies of work, who have successful businesses, who are high achievers, who might have great relationships, but there's this aspect of them that is longing for something more, more and expanded, and it lives within them. And so the invitation to join spaces and places where you can be still, where you can start to cultivate your own relationship with your own wisdom is the place, and trusting yourself even more is probably what I would share.
Thank you so much. That's such great advice, Aurora. So tell me now, how can we connect with you?
Well, it's pretty easy. You can come on to shespeaks.live, L-I-V-E, shespeaks.live. My website, you can connect with me there. You can write to me there. You can find out about what's happening there. And one of the invitations I have for women is if they want to have an inspiration session where, something I've shared has ignited in them, I'm happy to jump online for a half an hour and hear where they are. So anything on their leadership or personal empowerment journey would be great. And I would love as many of your beautiful women to come and play in Egypt, because it is until it was on my radar, it wasn't on my radar, but it has been one of the most incredible experiences of my life. This is the third time that I'll be going.
Fantastic. So apart from your website, where else can we find you?
Well, you can find me on LinkedIn, obviously. I'm not a big Instagram person. On Facebook, I have a She Speak page there with lots of videos and lots of circle recordings. They're the main things. I get involved in lots of online speaking. So they're probably the best places.
So would people search under your name, Aurora Pagonis, or under She Speaks for all of that?
So Aurora Susie Pagonis for Facebook, but the best place is just to go to shespeaks.live and everything will be there.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you for your time today and your wonderful advice and all those beautiful messages. Thank you, Aurora. Wishing you amazing success.
And Tula, I also want to thank you, sweetheart, because, this is all about us doing it together, really transforming tomorrow by doing it together. So I appreciate you. I celebrate you, and I'm excited just to continue to hear and see the unfolding.
Oh, namaste.
Namaste.
Thank you for tuning in to the Goddess Show podcast. We hope you've enjoyed it. And if you did, feel free to like, subscribe, share, and we look forward to seeing you next time.